The human person in its very health is being destroyed. Natural law says this: if you want something to prosper, you have to use it in accord with its very nature. So what is the nature and purpose of the sexual act? Is it simply pleasure? Well, no, actually. The pleasure, like let's say of eating, like what is the nature and purpose of eating? Is it simply for the pleasure? Well, some people do. And we know that because of that, they experience some problems. It can't simply just be for the pleasure. It's good, and it's a result, and it's part of it. Pleasure is great. But it also has a purpose, a function. We eat also to stay alive. Likewise, then, the nature and purpose of the sexual act isn't simply the pleasure, although that's a good thing. And there's a reason why God created the sexual act to be pleasurable. Have you ever thought that's God instilled that the pleasure in the sexual act? Have you ever thought why? Why He wants to do that? Maybe so we can do it more. Maybe we can have the foretaste of the ecstasies of heaven. Maybe so that we can see that this is supposed to point us towards heaven. But the ultimate purpose, by natural law, is that the couple can be bonded, and also that there can as well be brought forth babies, children. At which point Janet Smith says this. She says there's a big difference between these following two phrases. She says there's a big difference when somebody says, I want to have a baby with you, and I want to have sex with you. There's a big difference between those two phrases. The fundamental task then of the family is to serve life, to actualize in history the original blessing of the Creator, that of transmitting by procreation the divine image from person to person. Why does God make more human beings? So that there can be more of His very divine image, and therefore His love and His ecstatic communion in the world, so that His love can be spread. Because again, He is a very family in His very being. He is a very communion. He is love. He is creative. He is Father. And so let me just say this. If you have heard any of these teachings today and found them difficult to hear, or maybe you know somebody who's struggling with them, Christopher West says this. He says, no one becomes upset at Jesus' command to feed the hungry. And that's because our hearts are in union with that command. We all want to feed the hungry because our hearts are already united in that generosity. We are upset at the commands that our hearts are distant from. Perhaps then the church isn't the one that needs to change her teachings. Perhaps it's our hearts. So if today you hear His voice, the Lord says, harden not your hearts. Thank you very much.